Some Acorn newspapers, publishers of the Greenwich Post, New Canaan Advertiser, the Darien Times, the Ridgefield Press, the Weston Forum, the Wilton Bulletin, the Reading Pilot, the Lewisboro Ledger, the Monroe Courier, the Eastern Courier, the Trumbull Times, Fairfield Sun, Shelton Herald, the Stratford Star, the Milford Mirror, and the Valley Gazette.
This is the HAN Network, the leader for local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut and beyond. Live from the Norwalk Inn, the excitement continues here on the HAN Network as we come back live with a special edition of Nutmeg Sports on this Tuesday afternoon with Donald Eng. I'm Rob Adams, and Don, certainly, as I said, exciting was a word I used a couple of times during the press conference to announce our relationship with the FCIAC. I continue to be really, I'll try the word stoked for a moment. How about that?
Well, it really is exciting, and I think the people that really ought to be most stoked are the parents and grandparents of the student athletes and the student athletes themselves, because from what we've seen today, you have grandparents that live in Florida, you have parents that are at the office until 6 o'clock at night, and they're going to get a chance to see their children and grandchildren and family members, compete athletically in a way that they never have before. And the other thing we heard was that it's an opportunity for coaches, and if students are being recruited by colleges, it's a chance for them to really strut their stuff. So that's really exciting.
The development of young broadcasters, to me, was one of the most exciting things to come out of all of this. I've loved working with the many young broadcasters that I've had the opportunity to work with. One of them actually right here in the room, he was hardly a kid when I first met him, but Chris Irway was in college when he started working alongside of me, eventually came back and became my broadcast partner, and now will be the lead analyst for a lot of our football coverage. Chris Kaling came aboard as an intern as well, and those were two of the key names that when HAN Radio was created, I wanted those two guys to come along. Ryan DeMaria, another one as well, to have these guys along and help build what we've built here, and it's really exciting. So to see more young faces develop, the guys from Staples already have a great broadcasting outlet. I know New Canaan already has a terrific outlet. So to see that, we were talking with someone from Norwalk, in fact. I just think this is all tremendous. Sitting alongside of us here as we continue on is the Executive Secretary of the FCIAC, and that is Mr. John Kutzo. John, good afternoon, and thank you for a few minutes. Rob. It's great to see you, and really, this is so exciting for all of us, and I'm thrilled to be working with the FCIAC.
Well, we're thrilled to have you working full-time with us now, not just part-time or once or twice a year. So we're quite excited about this. We have always looked for a way to raise funds in order to provide the programs that we do for the kids. And it gets harder and harder to beat down the bushes and the doors and so on to get a financing for our programs. And this is a collaborative effort on HAN Network and the FCIAC to make that happen. And I as going out after 48 years of working in the league, or as a commissioner of the league, that this is one of the most exciting things and probably the best thing that has ever happened to the league.
You've seen this conference from the very beginnings. I remember chatting with you not too long ago and saying how it was almost like a barbecue, that it basically the foundation just almost felt like it started in somebody's backyard for this conference. And all these years later, as we get toward the 50th football championship, I guess it's safe to say the Power Conference has come a long way.
Well, that's true. The Connecticut High School Coaches Association was formed at my father's house in the backyard, and I was the cook. It was a barbecue, but after a couple of years of meetings, almost like the same meetings that myself, Dave Schultz, and Mike King had with Marty and you guys up at 1000 Shelton Avenue or Bridgeport Avenue.
Right.
It was similar to that, and they would meet at various restaurants, because a lot of the guys that were involved in the formation of the Connecticut High School Coaches Association came from the Hartford area, the Southington area, Bristol, New Haven, and Bridgeport and Fairfield County. So they met and decided that they were going to form the Connecticut High School Coaches Association, which a good friend of mine and everyone that's involved in sports, John Fontana, now runs, and his uncle Joe Fontana ran it before him. So that led into, now that was the late 50s, 58, 59, and then out of that came all of the athletic directors from the Fairfield County that were attending these meetings now said, why don't we do this for us? In other words, they had a loose understanding that they would play one another every year. Okay? Didn't always work out that way. So what they wanted was a central office where schedules would be developed. No talk of tournaments at the time, just schedules. That's all they were interested in. And also the development of officials association. Believe it or not, when the league got started in 1961, there were no officials groups. So they were started by one of the guys that was involved. His name was Jack Lockery. He was a coach and a guidance counselor at Stanford High School. And he was my father's assistant in baseball and football. And they got started. And 1961 was the first year, fall of 1961. And that was my third year teaching and my first year coaching. So, that's when we got started. And the first championship was in the fall of 1965. And that was Trinity versus Rippewam at Boyle Stadium. There were, we know there were 11,000 tickets sold because we had $11,000. And when we got there, my father and I got there. We lived over on the east side of Stanford. And when we got there in the morning, because he asked me to help him out, the gates had been knocked down. And there were 3,000 people in the stands before the cops got there or anybody else. And, of course, they wouldn't get out. So I estimate there were anywhere between 14 and 15,000 at that game. And it was unbelievable. And, the Trinity won it. They beat Bobby Valentine. Bobby had a great year. But Trinity won out that day, and it was unbelievable. So from there, the league just started to grow. And then in 1974, when we took all the girls in, girls programs, and that was Title IX, and it was simple, Baseball schedule became the same as the softball schedule became the same as the baseball schedule. Boys soccer, girls soccer, same schedules, and so it was not a big deal. Basketball the same, and so on. And so that it was easy to schedule all of these events. And periodically we had problems with officials, not enough officials in groups, but I think that we're in pretty good shape now. And I think the only sport really where there's a lack of officials is field hockey. All the rest of the sports programs are in pretty good shape.
Now, John, you mentioned field hockey and you mentioned Title IX and the boys and girls programs. And what I said a minute ago was that I think that the people that should be most excited about this are the student athletes and their families that are going to get a chance to really participate and perform to a much larger audience. But and looking at the schedule, I see boys and girls soccer, field hockey on our broadcast schedule. And I just wanted you to just kind of speak briefly about what it means to the folks that participate in those sports, because we know football gets the front pages and it gets the majority of the ink. That's just kind of the way it is. But for a field hockey player to have an opportunity like this, for boys and girls soccer, the kids and their coaches have to be thrilled today.
They are, and don't forget, this is only the beginning. Right now, this partnership that we have with HAN Network involves only 90 games, 30 in the fall, 30 in the winter, and 30 in the spring. But we have 11 schools that have videography programs. And some of them are already ready to go. And each one of those games that they do will also be filmed, live streamed. Okay? So that we know that one school in particular has already told me that they will do 25 games per season. So that's another 75 on top of the 90. Okay? Now, they may do, for instance, field hockey, as you mentioned, there may only be one game on there, but they may end up with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is. And in addition to that, we have asked these videography teachers that we are interested in content, and that it may not be sports. It may be the school play. It may be a cavalcade of bands. It may be any other activity that's going on in the school that they need publicity for, or they want publicity for.
Right, so that's
or they want
debate team, Model UN, groups like that, the robotics club.
Yeah. Now, let me give you an example. They may, when they do a theatrical production, they may have to get permission to do that because there's some kind of property rights with Broadway. So if they're doing Phantom of the Opera, they're going to have to get permission, to do that. Also, my understanding is that the Association of Marching Bands that Norwalk belongs to will not allow you to do it. But McMahon is going to open up their own group this year. So now if Norwalk is invited to their cavalcade, they will be able to do that. And you'll be surprised how many people. Norwalk High, nothing to have 3,500, 5,000 people.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. My sister was a color guard at Bunnell High School.
Yeah. So, it's a great number. But what I'm really amazed at, one of the days that I was talking to Marty, was that one of the biggest championships we have, we don't even know how many people come to watch it. It's a cross-country championships.
Right.
How many people will be able to see the cross-country championship, not just the start and the finish, but they'll see the whole race. Now, I'm hoping we can pull this off, or HAN can pull this off, is have cameras in 5 or 6 different locations on the course. And so you watch your child run across the field up at Waveney Inn, Waveney Castle
Park, yeah,
Pet Park, and they go off. Then maybe a half mile down the road, you see them crossing over the grass, and then you don't see them for another 10 minutes. But in strategic locations, there will be a camera. And of course, Marty tells me he has a drone.
That's true.
So that would be unbelievable. That these people who come up to watch their children run, whether they come in first or last, will be able to watch the whole race.
And they can be at the race and watching on their phones, on their tablets,
That's right.
anywhere they get they get 4G.
They don't have to be home and have their computer. Any the tablet, like you said, or an iPhone, they're right there. And swimming, we never had swimming.
Swimming and
televised.
diving, right.
Swimming and diving.
Boys and girls tennis.
Can you imagine the things that if they do the girls and boys track meet, which is held on the same day at the same site, that you have one camera out with the shot putters and the javelin throwers and the discus throwers, and another camera over where the long jumpers are and the pole vaulters, and then you have one on the track at the start and finish lines, and it would be unbelievable because parents. The track meets start at 2:00 in the afternoon. How many parents that work can even see those? So now they'd be able to see the whole thing.
It's so exciting to think about covering all of that, and really the opportunity, as we mentioned, for the grandparents, the parents, cousins, whomever. During the Babe Ruth tournament, we had a listener down in New Zealand, so
right.
To see all that is amazing.
The recent graduates that are away in their dorm room that want to watch their former teammates playing. There's really no limit, and it's just an amazing opportunity. Particularly when as we mentioned, that you don't necessarily have to be home in front of your computer. You can be at the venue and watching it for free on your on your smart devices. So it's it's just a win all around.
It is, and that's why we're sitting here.
Well, I'm glad that I'm sitting here with you guys because it's been a wonderful relationship that has developed between the FCIAC and HAN, Hersam, Acorn, now HAN Network. It truly is a great thrill for me to be part of this.
Well, we look forward to working with you and working with this conference that we're all thrilled to be a part of. And it's going to be a great year. It's going to be a great school year for all of us, and looking forward to kicking it off.
Thank you very much, Rob.
John, thank you very much. John Cookso, the Executive Secretary of the FCIAC. We take a break here from the Norwalk Inn. We continue on right after this on the HAN Network.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332 and online at stratfordsmile.com.
Enjoy an autumn afternoon in the garden at the Garden House at Keeler Tavern Museum, 132 Main Street, Ridgefield, for Sweets and Sips, Sunday, September 20th from 1 to 4 p.m. Relax in our beautiful garden setting and enjoy classical music as you sample items from local bakeries, chocolatiers, sweet shops, and restaurants. Wine tasting provided by the area's best liquor stores, wine vendors, and local wineries. Sweets and Sips, presented by Hersam Acorn. Join us for a sweet time. For more information and to purchase tickets, please visit hersamacorn.events/sweets and sips. Alliance. We are an industry leader in coordinating transportation for large events such as corporate road shows, conferences, and special events. Our team of experts understands the dynamics and logistics of high-pressure situations and complex arrangements, all within a rapidly changing environment. Since 1999, we have added charter jets, event management, and personal protection to our range of services. Mention this ad for $25 off your next round-trip reservation. Alliance and you. Together, we can achieve the extraordinary. 855-546-6996 or alliancelimo.com.
August means tennis in Connecticut, and the top players are gonna be here. Be there as some of the world's best women compete for the title at the Connecticut Open presented by United Technologies. And the boys are back for the Men's Legends event presented by PowerShares Series with John McEnroe, James Blake, and more. Experience a variety of food trucks, hands-on activities, live music, and so much more for the kids and family. It all adds up to one legendary week. August 21st through the 29th at the Connecticut Tennis Center in New Haven. Get your tickets at ctopen.org.
You're watching and listening to the HAN Network.
And back with you on Nutmeg Sports from the Norwalk Inn after what has been an enjoyable day. I don't want to keep using the exciting word, but Marty Hersam has joined us, and Marty, well, here we are.
Rob, Don.
Here we are.
Here we are.
What do you think after all is said and done?
I think it was a great day. I think that there's a huge relief that, there was a lot of work, not just by me, but by the staff getting to this point. And it's funny, I feel very glad that the information's out there, but I know we've got a really heavy-duty 7-day schedule coming up to bang the gong on this. So
we do, and that's something we should spend a moment on, is what we're doing over the next couple of days.
Yeah, so we are going to start our HAN Roadshow, the FCIAC Tour. Tomorrow at 2:30, we'll be at Bridgeport Central, interviewing as many Hilltoppers, coaches, cheerleaders, and anybody else we can get our hands on over there. In addition, which was actually kind of cool this morning, we, at the athletic directors meeting this morning, we also met with the broadcast journalist faculty, as I mentioned earlier in the press conference, and those folks, I've invited all those folks to show up as well, because they all kind of want to bring their equipment out and say, are we ready to go? And because some of them are absolutely no, they're ready to go. Others are not sure if they're ready to go. And when I say that, I mean in terms of ready to start streaming content. And I told them, let's come out, let's talk, let's try to get this, because we also want to get a schedule together for these folks that want to start broadcasting their own stuff. We want to feather that into our schedule and start getting that out there. We want to start promoting it. So we will be at 17 schools over 5 business days, interviewing, again, everybody from coaches, athletic directors, varsity athletes, captains, cheerleaders, and hopefully a few mascots. And I say that sincerely. We want to see some mascots.
Absolutely.
They tend to be very talkative, though. I've kind of noticed that.
The Blue Wave just will not shut up, Don. I'm telling you right now, you can't get that. No. So, yeah. So it's going to be good. It's also, again, the important part of this is to publicize the relationship we now have with the FCIAC, how we're going to be covering the league, where people can see this content and the games, and also to relaunch the brand of HAN Network, which encompasses Hersam Acorn's news, broadcast, content, and events and digital platforms as a real opportunity for marketers. So there'll be a lot going on.
When you say the HAN Network, and obviously we're all thrilled with the new name, is that to get the more encompassing feel of 21st century journalism?
It is, but more along the lines of 21st century new media. So we've done a lot of work over the last 18 months to put this package together in terms of everything that we're offering. We're obviously, trying to sort of shed the lead boots of our legacy media past and show folks that, we're producing remarkable video content and paid content, native content for clients. As well as written native content. We are obviously, becoming a very evolved broadcasting company. We're dipping our toe into niche events, starting this fall. So we've got a lot to offer for marketers, and in terms of changing over our sort of profile, that we're not just a newspaper company anymore. When we say the HAN Network, and it should be no secret that, Kentucky Fried Chicken went to KFC because they wanted to drop the word fried. Now, the large part of our bread is still buttered on the newspaper side, and we take that very seriously. But the HAN Network really is a network of media services that we now offer. So.
One of the questions that was posed to you during the press conference that I think merits some more discussion was the idea of a news media partnering with these schools. The idea of news, of being partners of being broadcast partners. And so, what was your response to that?
So that's a very important delineation. Again, as I said in the news release, the key factor here is that, look, if a league official was arrested, or a student athlete was involved in some sort of illegal activity, that will be covered objectively and competently by our news staff in our newspapers. That content will not appear on FCIAC.net. It will not be broadcast on a FCIAC broadcast. It may appear on an HAN Network morning news show and afternoon news show, and possibly on Nutmeg Sports, but it certainly will not be paraded around in terms of the FCIAC, the content that's FCIAC specific. But we will not, let our guard down with regards to covering news. I mean, that's important for folks to know. So, does that answer your question, Tom?
It does.
All right, well done. We're talking with Marty Hersam here on Nutmeg Sports on what has been a big day for us here on the HAN Network, and certainly for the FCIAC as well. John Kutzo seems extremely pleased with what has happened.
Well, you go back to that FCIAC championship game in the winter of 2013, and John and I it was 2 hours before the game, and we were set up to radio stream that, and John and I were walking across the field together before the game, and he goes, could you guys possibly do video streaming? And I'm like, John, give me a break here.
Was that our first game?
No, this was.
Or was it the?
No, I'm sorry. It was the 2014 game.
Okay.
It was the Darien New Kinney game.
Okay.
It wasn't the snowball. But, so he and I were walking across the field, and he said, do you think you guys can move into video streaming? And at that point, actually, if I recall the conversation, we were actually starting to poke around about it. So But I didn't think we would get here this quickly. Now, again, as I reminded some of the media afterwards when I was having some conversations with them directly, we made a very serious investment, and we do plan to monetize that investment. But we'd be stupid if we didn't, say we were going to do that and endeavor to do it very seriously. So,
And to restate for folks watching and listening, games will be free up until and then there's what we're calling a nominal set yet.
Not been set yet, but it'll be something around a ticket price, something along those lines. We want to keep it reasonable. But the other, is the other thing that came up this morning in this morning's meeting with the ADs and the broadcast journalism staff is that there will be instances where HAN will be covering a championship game. Let's say we're covering the championship football game, the championship field hockey game. We own the rights to all those broadcasts.
Right.
But if Staples broadcast team wants to cover the boys soccer championship, what happens to overlap that day, we are going to let them have that so they can broadcast it for those folks and not stand in the way and put a paywall in front of it. That's our plan at this point, and I thought it was a great question because I actually hadn't gotten that far to determine exactly how we're going to go, but it seems like the right thing to do for the student athletes and the families.
Well, months from now, we could be faced with, say, the baseball championship and the softball championship on the same day, so that is something to think about. For sure.
It is, but again, we're now, because of our expansion, we do have the ability to cover 2 games simultaneously on HAN. So. But we'll take everything in stride. Some of these broadcast platforms, these schools with their broadcast platforms are ready to go, and we want to, like I said, we want to celebrate these kids and let them get out there. These young broadcasters are chomping at the bit, And Mike Zito's kid, who's talking about, who just graduated from Syracuse, this kid won the Jim Nance Award.
Yes, he did.
And that's at Syracuse. That's
Eric Galante.
Yeah.
Terrific broadcaster.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do know him. He also had, at the same time that Eric Galante, this is how good that team was on WWPT a few years ago. Eric Galante went off to Syracuse, won the Jim Nance Award, which is given out by a site named STAA, the Sportscasters Talent Agency Association. But Eric was at Syracuse, and DJ Sixsmith went down to So,
wow,
just remarkable. And they were a broadcast
Who
team,
likes
those
Vince
2
Scully,
kids. Nobody I know. I don't know anybody who likes Vince Scully. But so it just goes to show that there are these young broadcasters that are there.
And I think that's going to be really cool, especially for the guys in the booth and for the for not just the on-air staff, but for the production crew to really showcase those kids and their talents. It's really exciting, and New Canaan. I was talking to Roman, the head of the broadcast journalism in New Canaan this morning. He's got 37 kids signed up for this fall for broadcast journalism.
That's great.
And he's like, there's so many kids I don't know what to do. He was like, do you think you guys could take someone? I'm like, we'll take, we're glad to help out in any way we can. And he said this sort of jokingly, obviously, but to the extent that we can be part of that education. Sean Patrick Bully asked me the question about, can kids get credit for these internships? And in fact, we had Alex Hagar do his senior internship with us.
Tom Preisman
do his senior internship. So yeah, there's absolutely options for credits there. So, we had Eric, who was our intern, our other intern from Darien who worked. Florian, right? Did his senior.
Florian Van Dyke.
Yes.
Right, Florian Van Dyke.
Did his senior internship with us. So, yes, there's plenty of opportunities for that, and you can reach out to Eric Gendron at video at hersamacorn.com if you're interested in being an intern.
All right.
So, yeah.
Marty, exciting.
Exciting stuff, Rob.
We're off and running.
Yes, we are. And again, I just want to say a special thanks to all the staff, you, Don, Eric, AJ, Josh, Kovac, Tracy, Kate, Mario, Sean Saylor, Mike Suppy, Bill Blocks, our whole sports staff, everyone has
guy
chipped in.
sitting right there.
That guy right there, Chris Irway. Oh wait, there he is, Chris Irway.
Barely paying attention. He's coming up next.
Cato
by the way.
Kalin. All our volunteers and all our interns have really advanced this project. So I appreciate everyone's hard work. Yeah. And again, collective intellect. That's what it's all about.
Off we go on the road tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, Marty. Thank you.
Beep, beep.
Marty Hersam with us. Don and I return to Norwalk. We continue on Nutmeg Sports right after this on the HAN Network.
Located in the heart of picturesque downtown Ridgefield at 13 Governor Street, Colby's is the area's premier retailer for blinds, shades, shutters, and draperies, and is one of the select few Hunter Douglas Gallery dealers. A family-owned and operated company, Colby's experienced staff will work with you in choosing the best treatments for your home or office and offer free measuring and expert installation. Colby's also carries an extensive line of decorative fabrics including Schumacher, Durley, Tebow, and more. Or browse over 400 books in our wallpaper library from famous designers such as Stroheim, Schumacher, Ralph Lauren, Tebow, and York. Take advantage of our Fashion in Motion savings event with savings and rebates on Hunter Douglas shades with PowerRise technology. Colby's of Ridgefield. We are committed to your complete satisfaction. 203-438-8531.
It's Lots of Characters, specializing in children's birthday parties with your child's favorite characters. When you want to party hardy, when you need to celebrate, call us, we won't be late. We help create lasting memories for you and your child on their special day. Call us at 203-590-1791 or visit our website at lotsofcharacters.org for more information and to see our party packages. Lots of Characters, 203-590-1791 or online at lotsofcharacters.org.
It's grilling season, and Walter Stewart's Market is your local destination for the finest grill-ready certified Angus beef strip steaks, skirt steaks, 100% grass-fed ribeyes, all-natural pork ribs, Arthur Ave-style kebabs, fresh-cut veggies, delicious grab-and-go salads, chilled rosé wine, and ice-cold craft brews right next door. Walter Stewart's, your fresh local market. 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, and shop online for groceries and wine delivered to your door at stewartsmarket.com.
Kycote Rockefeller Estate is Westchester County's top cultural attraction and is now open for the season. Don't miss out. Go online to hudsonvalley.org to plan your visit. Take a drive out to beautiful Sleepy Hollow, New York, and enjoy Kycote's stunning architecture, breathtaking gardens, expansive art galleries, and commanding Hudson River views. From world-class art by Picasso and Warhol to expertly tended gardens, there's something for everyone. Kycote Rockefeller Estate, a National Trust for Historic Preservation landmark.
Now you can keep up with what's happening in Darien with the convenience of the Darien Times Online. Your choice. Print or digital subscription for just $45 a year. Or get the print and digital bundle for just $10 more, $55 a year. To subscribe to the Darien Times, go to hersamsecure.com/CIRC or call the circulation department at 203-894-3388. The Darien Times, now in print and online. Don't miss a single issue. Subscribe today.
This is the home of the Fairfield County Interscholastic Athletic Conference, your home for FCIAC sports, the HAN Network.
And back with you on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network, where we are very much the home of the FCIAC. Officially today with Donald Eng, I'm Rob Adams. Chris Irway, my broadcast partner for football and anything else he wants to be a broadcast partner on, joins us. And we thought we'd spend a few minutes looking at these games.
This is an exciting time. It's very interesting to see, the HAN Network and that branding and to partner with the FCIAC. It's an exciting time. And looking at the schedule, we've got a lot of the football games highlighted here, but we've got girls soccer, boys soccer, field hockey. You kind of run the gamut of fall sports. So an exciting time to be part of HAN.
And I'll be completely candid, Don. That's where I'm nervous because there's stuff that I'm going to be broadcasting for the first time. I've done more football games than I can count, but diving into soccer and field hockey, that's a brave new world for me. I'll be perfectly honest.
Well, you get used to kind of jumping right into things you're not really sure how it works. You'll be fine. Isn't that what you said to me about a year ago?
That's kind of what I said.
Rob, I have no idea how to do this. Don't worry about it. You're fine.
Those were the exact words I used. Our jumping off point is on September 11th when we do an out-of-state and out-of-conference game against in Yorktown Heights, New York, with John Jay High School. John Jay being one of our schools, the Lewisboro Ledger, as they take on the Yorktown Huskers. The one reason I'm so happy about that game, it's about a 15-minute ride home for me.
Which is the complete opposite of what you ever have.
No, it's going to be fun. For me, those are schools that I've watched as a kid, so to be there will be kind of fun to do that. But, we've got some stuff early on with Weston and Notre Dame of Fairfield. Finally, we get into the FCIAC on the 15th with New Canaan and Brian McMahon in girls soccer and a Wilton Greenwich boys soccer game on the 17th. But that first football game, and I'll throw it open to both of you guys, it really was a lot to choose from. And the decision for me came down to, and I know I mentioned it to you, New Canaan Ridgefield at Tiger Hollow, or seeing John Marinelli's first game as coach of Greenwich High going up against his mentor, who's an assistant now, or going up against the former coach, Rich Albanese, who I guess in a certain way is a mentor to John Marinelli. But watching, Coach Rich Albanese, who's now an assistant for Donnie Panapata at Trinity Catholic. So watching Greenwich Trinity Catholic was very tempting. Ultimately, I went New Canaan Ridgefield, and as we know from experience, some of that comes down to where can we get the connectivity, what's the better press facility, things like that. My point is, it's not an easy choice. All that said, I do like New Canaan Ridgefield as a matchup.
And I think that's what it really comes down to is, we look at a lot of different things. We look at venue, we look at, wireless capabilities, we look at all that, but it really comes down to the type of matchup. And while, Marinelli versus Albanese, kind of the teacher versus the student is great, you look at the matchup on paper, talent-wise, and I think we can both agree that Greenwich has, a couple legs up on Trinity right now, whereas New Canaan versus Ridgefield, especially with Ridgefield at home in Tiger Hollow, which is my favorite place to broadcast.
Is it?
My favorite place. And I know, a lot of times the connectivity can be an issue.
Really?
It is hands down my favorite place to broadcast a football game.
Even though in reality, because the press box is so small, we're probably going to be out in the concourse that night.
I understand, and that's with the job, but I just love kind of the lower bowl type atmosphere, and it really that just does it for me. That I love broadcasting from Tiger Hollow, and I think that game is a lot more even than anything else we had on the schedule.
Now, Don, you don't have a lot of experience as a broadcaster on the football side, but what about, do you have a favorite facility that you go to, whether as a fan or in any form?
Well, my favorite facility to go to as a fan is Ingles Rink in New Haven.
Absolutely.
That is by far my favorite facility to go to as a fan.
Sure.
Simply because whenever I'm there, that means that the team I happen to root for had a very good season.
How about football specific?
Football specific, I'm kind of limited. I've only ever been to a handful of facilities. I tend to take in the home games. I do like, and it is a bit of homerism, I do like Seymour High School because it overlooks the valley, and you can really see on a Friday night. There's nothing like a Friday night in the valley, because when you're at some of these schools, when some of these schools are all home, you have these small towns. The way the Naugatuck River cuts through the valley.
Sure.
You can actually be sitting at one football game and see the lights of two others just as you look out over the skyline. So that's always fun for me.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Darien Greenwich, next football game on September 26th. I mean, Darien, defending FCIAC champion, defending state runner-up. They, both games by a point. Cardinal Stadium, John Marinelli. It's a lot to like there on that 4 o'clock game on the 26th.
There's a lot to like, and Darien brings back a lot of players, but so does Greenwich, and I'm really interested to see the energy from the Cardinals. You bring in a very young coach, a guy that's going to bring a lot of energy, a bit of a new offense. kind of revamping on the defensive side of the football. Yep. And then you really got kind of a stalwart in Darien, especially the past couple years. They return a lot of players. Mark Ivanchek is a senior this year who had something like 25 sacks last year and is only like 12 away from the state record. So another game that is just a classic matchup of two powerhouses in the FCIAC.
And major playoff implications with Darien moving up to Class L this year.
Right.
You get that matchup right out of the gate almost. With week 2 in the FCIAC, Darien versus Greenwich, two teams that are always contenders, and both of them always looking to get a state playoff berth. This year, unlike most years, both of them are going head-to-head just to get into the state tournament. So definite playoff implications there. Very, a big game very early in the season.
Now, Friday, October 2nd, create a little bit of a challenge. I definitely wanted to work in a game at Rafferty Stadium, the new facility at Fairfield Prep. It's a lacrosse stadium that's going to be used as the football field for Fairfield Prep, and I wanted to see a game there. But at the same time, there's also Fairfield Ward and Staples, which is an intriguing matchup because Staples coming off of what you would consider a down year for the Wreckers. Right. Fairfield Ward looks like they might be building something there. I want to see what we've got on that Friday night at Staples High School.
Yeah, Staples definitely, when you lose a game or two, that is definitely a down year.
We saw them lose.
Records.
We saw them lose 34-5 to New Canaan. Staples puts up 5 points.
5 points, and just unbelievable to think a Mark Petrosio coach Staples team would do that. So, and Fairfield Ward has been on the rise for a while now. When Ward and Ludlow kind of split into those two schools, you kind of go through that growing pain process. To try to build up your roster and build up the amount of players that actually come out and try to make a football team. And we're kind of in that sweet spot now where Ward has actually developed into a strong program. The question is, can they compete at this level against a team that is pretty much a solid, strong, fundamentally sound team every year?
The next game up, Don, is Stanford and Danbury on October 9th at Danbury High School. And again, I looked for games that had intrigue, and I looked to try to get every school some kind of attention. Stanford is a team that under Jamari Green has been building something. Danbury, Mark Ecke was there for a year, and now he's gone. So they've got a new head coach there at Danbury. Again, I kind of want to see what's going on with Stanford and Danbury.
It's an intriguing matchup. I saw Stanford the last 2 years. I saw them play, and both times I was really impressed because the program had been kind of down for a while, and they had seemed to be really coming on strong. And I'm very interested to see if that growth continues. They've gotten their roster numbers are on the increase. The overall talent in the program is on the increase. They appear to be very well coached. That's what I noticed right off the bat, is that they're an excellently coached team going up against a team that has it's more established certainly, but with a new coach, presumably with a little wrinkles in his new system, you just have to see how that's going to work. You just never know until the kids are on the field.
On October 16th, we go to Fujitani Field in Wilton for St. Joe's and Wilton. Now, Bruce Cunningham and Wilton, every now and then we see glimpses, and St. Joe's makes a run to the FCIAC championship. Then they're in it last year, but then they fall down, but then they go on and win big things. Outside the FCIAC, they did fine in the States. I don't know. It's a game that, again, there's intrigue.
It can be a toss-up game. It could be a blowout game. Really either way. So it's one of those games where you kind of just look at it, and two relatively small schools and small rosters.
Yeah,
you typically see smaller football players. Definitely, you don't see these huge hulking linemen on either team. Really, you see a lot of scat back type runners. You don't see these big bruising running backs. You don't see the ridiculously tall
Abdul Basir from St. Joe's, right?
Basir.
Although Tyler Matakevich a few years ago, we remember him. He was a stud.
I do remember Tyler Matakevich from the years, but they kind of ran a little bit of a different offense with Matakevich too.
And he was a two-way player also.
And he was a two-way player. So this is a game where you look at it, and it really can be a toss-up, but it is a very intriguing game.
Nothing going on October 24th. I can skip over that game. Nothing to get excited. I mean, in football, in the FCIAC, is it fair to say, maybe that's the way I can put it, on October 24th, is this the game of the year, or is this a game that's just overhyped because it's Marinelli versus Marinelli, New Canaan Greenwich Cardinal Stadium on October 24th at 3 o'clock?
I don't think it's overhyped. I think the hype is probably valid for Marinelli versus Marinelli. When they actually get on the field, that'll be really the telltale sign. Can Greenwich rebound from what has been a couple of mediocre seasons? And to put the word mediocre with Greenwich football is really unheard of. But to be honest, they have been down the past couple years.
To be fair,
it's interesting because you just wouldn't expect it from that caliber team.
To be fair, they're a game away last year on Thanksgiving from going to the state playoffs. They did, of course, lose to Staples in Rich Albanizio's last game. Don, your thoughts on this game?
Well, as we were saying, there is a lot of hype surrounding it, but the hype, in my opinion, is appropriate because you have two of the premier programs going head to head. Coach, I mean, there's family ties, there's tradition and history on both sides, and again, two teams that have eyes on the playoffs this year. So I mean, the hype is there, but in my opinion, merited.
We move to October 30th. We'll see the Greenwich Cardinals again as they travel up to Taft Field in Fairfield to take on the Fairfield Ludlow Falcons. And again, here's a team in Fairfield Ludlow. I've watched them kind of rise, but then down, rise back. And, John Kovac, our colleague, does coach as an assistant occasionally. Well, no, not even occasionally. He coaches passionately at Ludlow. And I've said to him, what's your team going to be? He said, we don't know yet. They got a good head coach there. It's a good program. I want to see how they go up against the Greenwich Cardinals.
And I think that's the problem for Ludlow every year is they come in and they really don't know who they are. They're a relatively unknown team. They don't have a true identity, and it's something that they need to figure out before the season starts. It is ridiculously hard in the FCIAC to try something out for the first few games, and then if it doesn't work, switch and just kind of flip-flop. So this team really needs to figure out what they're going to be in the preseason and then go with it. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to take your bumps and bruises, but you have to kind of move forward and push through those growing pains.
And one thing I noticed about Fairfield Ludlow, as we mentioned, a team that's been up and down and then, in my opinion, trending up. One of the things that I think is different this year from other years is when you look down their bench, they're going to have athletes.
Right.
90 names on that Fairfield Ludlow roster. That's about double what they had last year. So definitely the pieces are there. Now it's just a question of getting them all in place and scheming for what's going to be a very tough game.
Rob, I think that's also our Halloween game, so we'll see what we have to offer for all the viewers out there.
I know. Somehow we're going to have to work in the shirts and still work up a costume. We'll figure something out. Last year we both paid tribute to Craig Sager.
Craig Sager, yeah.
And actually got his son to retweet us, and he was pretty excited by what we did.
An awesome moment.
It was pretty cool, actually, and we wish Craig Sager, who's been in this business a long time, all the best wishes as he continues to battle cancer. Trumbull New Canaan is next on November 6th at Dunning Field. It's amazing that that's the first time we go to Dunning Field, Dunning Stadium, if you will, but that is our first appearance in New Canaan on November 6th. Then on November 13th, we're back to Cardinal Stadium. I just continue to be fascinated by Greenwich and Ridgefield because Ridgefield, perpetually a good team. Kevin Callahan taking a year off from coaching because of getting in some hot water. And again, Ridgefield, Greenwich, I don't know. I want to see it.
I want to see it as well. And same thing with Trumbull New Canaan. I mean, Trumbull to me is a team that I expect to be better than they are every year. And I look at Ridgefield and I think the same thing. A perpetual 2 to 3 loss team and always kind of just missing out on the FCIAC, just kind of missing out on states. So just one of those teams that can they break the ceiling? They've got the ceiling set so high, they've got expectations set so high. Can they break through? Is this the year for them?
Now, for all intents and purposes, most of the FCIAC season ends right there on November 13th, but there is Thanksgiving. We'll get to that in a minute. November 21st, you love it, you hate it. As of right now, that is the scheduled date for the FCIAC Championship football game, the 50th edition. I am on the record. I've called 10 of them. I love calling this game. To me, it is the coolest thing. But I also do agree that it's, confusing that the regular season does roll on with an extra game on Thanksgiving following the championship.
It is, and it's unfortunate that they had to go to a 9-game schedule to accommodate the championship game because, as I've said hundreds of times now, one of the things that makes football special is you don't get to play it very often.
Right.
And unfortunately, for 15 teams, they've had their season reduced by 10%. But on the other hand, you do have the tradition, and it is something that the kids compete for very hard. And if you can fill Boyle Stadium, these kids deserve a chance to go out and compete for a championship.
They have not set the site for sure as being Boyle Stadium, but I certainly hope it is.
Fingers crossed.
That's my favorite place, as you know.
I was going to mention it. There's not one game on that schedule at Boyle Stadium, so. I'm
hoping for November 21st.
You're really hoping that
I
happens, because that's your wheelhouse right there. That's why I love kind of the opposite sides of the spectrum, because you're big into Boyle. I'm not as big into Boyle. I'm big into Tiger Hollow. You're not. It's kind of
I like Tiger Hollow, but
sides of the spectrum,
Yeah, I love my only complaint about Boyle Stadium, and it had to happen, was the rebuilding of the press box, moving it to the other side. I love the old press box that almost hung right over the field.
Yes, love that.
And that perspective to me was just as good as it got in all of the FCIAC. Plus, I'm a history guy, and you know that. To November 26th we go, Thanksgiving morning. You and I have worked a whole bunch of Thanksgiving mornings together. For years we covered Greenwich Staples together. I hope somehow we can get Greenwich Staples on the air, but in the wheelhouse of games on Thanksgiving, you and I have called a lot of games together. Have we ever seen a better football game than New Canaan-Darien last year?
I'm not sure we have, and really to use the term, I mean, we said a lot, but instant classic really.
And I don't like that term.
I know you don't like it, but it just worked so well for what we got, and I hate to say it so early on, but I really expect another one.
Early on in that game, and I can tell this story now, Marty Hersam was up there, I think, tweeting with us that day in the booth. Chris and I were calling the game. Cato and Eric Gendron were on the field. I don't know about Cato and Eric, but I know, certainly for you and I think Marty as well, we were passing looks between each other in probably the second quarter going, how the heck are we going to call the second half of this game? Is it over? It was a dog.
It really was. The first quarter and a half, you're thinking to yourself, like, how am I going to fill air for the second half of this football game? And then all of a sudden,
boom,
turned on a dime.
I just think back to play after play in that game, going down to the Griffin Ross touchdown in overtime, and then the interception by Bobby Trifone to win it. I mean, Don, it's the game at Darien High School on November 26th.
There's nothing about a rivalry. There's nothing like a rivalry game, where that it's like whether it's Army Navy, Notre Dame USC, in this case New Canaan Darien. Nothing about a rivalry game to bring out the best in kids, particularly the effort. I mean, you see they want to win the game so badly, and it's almost like it's the remarkable thing is the opening kickoff. The whistle blows and 22 kids are on the ground.
Right.
That's just an amazing thing to be a part of.
And you're talking to a couple of guys who also got the chance to call a Rye Harrison game as well, and shoulder to shoulder with 10,000 of our closest friends,
and really,
in the crowd,
and I'm pretty sure we've done that game from rooftops of schools. So I mean, that's how crazy that rivalry is.
We've done it all. We will bring it all to you. We will tell you all the stories. I've been told from time to time, people love when we tell you about our broadcasting perspective. Where we're doing the game. It's all part of the story and the color that we will bring to you beginning in just a few weeks. September 11th is the first game, and away we go. And look, we're not, as Marty said during the press conference, the states are not out of the question. We had a great time calling state games. Fingers crossed that the opportunity comes up again for all of us. We work with, and this is me speaking, not these guys. These are the finest broadcasters I know. I've got the finest group of, and they're not mine, I shouldn't say I, but the finest, they're Marty's to be exact, the finest selection of journalists and production people with great directors, great camera people, all people who are passionate to do what we do. I'm lucky to be able to do something I love more than almost anything in this world, and this guy knows it because he's done a whole bunch of games with me. So, and Don is learning it day in and day out. What we're doing here, we are excited, and we want to bring all of the flavor and passion and energy that we've brought on the radio for a long time. Now we want to bring it to everyone around the world.
The next phase is upon us, and it is an exciting time. I'm glad to be a part of it.
And, you and I have talked about how we're going to call nothing's going to change. We're us.
We're us, and that's why people listen.
Buckle
That's
up.
why people are going to watch.
Buckle up and away we go. You ready for this?
No.
But he's gonna
I'll be there.
But you'll be there anyway. I hope you do. Now, you obviously you've got your wife and your great daughter, and you have your newspaper and all that. But I do hope you jump on and show up for some games.
I will. I'll be there. Don't worry.
That's what I want to hear. With all that said, we'll probably say goodbye for this edition of Nutmeg Sports. We want to thank John Kutzo, with Marty Hersam, and Eric Gendron for directing, and AJ Simonowski, and Chris Irway, and Donald Eng. For all of them, I'm Rob Adams. The Road Show tomorrow from Norwalk. So long, everyone.
Yabba dabba 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 doo. Yabba dabba 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 doo.
This is the HAN Network, the leader for local news, sports, arts, and entertainment in southwestern Connecticut and beyond.